champagne flutes, the hum of laughter, and the glimmer of fairy lights wrapped around the pillars of the grand event hall made the place look like something out of a high society magazine. I stood near the back wall, tray in hand, heels biting into the back of my ankles, sweat trickling down my spine, not from the summer heat, but from the sting of humiliation burning across my skin. "She's just here to serve drinks," my brother-in-law, Greg, said loud enough for the room to hear as he grabbed a glass of Prosecco from my tray. "This is a family event, not a shelter." His laugh was ugly. So was the chorus of chuckles that followed. My sister's smirk. My mother-in-law's tight-lipped nod. My cousin's husband muttering, "Well, someone's gotta do it, right?" I didn't flinch. Not visibly, at least. I just turned to collect more drinks from the bar. But my fingers were trembling so much that one of the glasses tipped and shattered against the tray. A few heads turned. More laughter. And still, I said nothing. Because this wasn't just their family event. It was mine, too. At least it was supposed to be. Until I'd become the help. But they had no idea what was coming. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered. The hall dimmed. Conversation stumbled and fell into confused murmurs. A spotlight blinked on, pointed toward the stage. And then I saw him. My husband, Ethan. He stepped onto the stage in a tailored black suit, hair slicked back, face emotionless. The crowd turned confused, then curious, then silent. Ethan raised a mic to his lips. "I wasn't supposed to speak tonight, but I think it's time I did." I swallowed hard. This wasn't planned. We were supposed to leave quietly. Not anymore. I know many of you think of my wife as the girl who married into this family and didn't quite fit in. Some of you see her as a charity case. Someone beneath you.
He paused.
My heart slammed against my ribs. My brother-in-law let out a short, mocking laugh, but it faltered when Ethan's eyes landed on him. "But what none of you know," Ethan continued, voice steady, "is that this event you're enjoying, the food, the champagne, the floral arrangements, even the very lease of this venue, it was all paid for by her." A stunned silence fell over the room. She didn't want anyone to know. She asked to stay quiet.
To keep the peace.
To avoid ruining what was supposed to be a celebration.
Now he looked at me.
His eyes weren't angry. They were proud. "But you pushed her too far. You humiliated her one too many times.
And now?
Now you're going to hear the truth." He stepped aside, and the projector behind him came to life. A slideshow began. Photos of a broken-down property. Before and after shots of renovations. Invoices. Contracts. Photos of me, hard hat on my head, clipboard in hand, dirt on my jeans, working late into the night. "This estate was bankrupt before she stepped in," Ethan said. "The family inheritance was gone. And she took her own savings, cashed out everything she had, and rebuilt what you are all standing on tonight." Whispers rippled through the crowd. "But it gets better," Ethan said, a ghost of a smile curling his lips. "Greg, remember the loan you begged me for 2 years ago? The one I said I couldn't give you?" Greg blinked, face paling. "My wife gave you that money. Anonymously. And you used it to buy your precious lake house, and then laughed behind her back for pouring wine." Greg's jaw clenched. "That's not true." Ethan held up the signed wire confirmation. "It is." Silence again. Then gasps. From the front row, Ethan's mother looked ready to faint. "But I'm not here to make you apologize," Ethan said. "I'm here to remind you that no one gets to mock my wife and walk away clean." He turned to me and held out his hand. "Come up here." I didn't hesitate. I walked across the floor like my heels didn't hurt, like my heart wasn't hammering, like I hadn't just been reduced to a servant 10 minutes ago. I took his hand, and the spotlight followed. My voice was calm as I leaned toward the mic. "You called this a family event," I said, looking at Greg. "But if family means stepping on someone to feel taller, then I'm proud to say, this isn't my family anymore." And then I walked off stage, right past the stunned tables, right out the door, and into the next chapter. But that was just the beginning. What happened next, after that door closed, would unravel secrets, lies, and betrayals even I didn't see coming. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, group chat pings from family I hadn't spoken to in months. One from my cousin Rachel. What the hell was that last night? Why didn't you tell us? Another from my sister, Brianna. You embarrassed Greg. In front of everyone. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I walked barefoot across our hardwood floor, the sunlight spilling through the windows of a home I bought, but never bragged about. The same one they refused to visit because, in Brianna's words, it smelled like paint and desperation. Ethan stood by the kitchen island, sleeves rolled up, coffee mug in hand. You okay? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him and finally said, I think I am. He gave a quiet nod. You were incredible up there. You know that, right? I shrugged, half smiling. I didn't feel incredible. I felt angry. Good, he said. Anger is honest. And they've used your silence for too long. I sat down at the stool across from him. It wasn't just last night. It was years of being treated like I didn't belong. Like I was someone they had to tolerate. Ethan reached into the drawer beside him and pulled out a thick envelope. What's this? I wasn't going to give it to you until your birthday next week, he said. But after last night, I think you've earned it. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a set of legal documents. Title deeds. Company shares. My name on all of them. I blinked. Ethan, what is this? The final transfer. I moved everything over. The real estate firm, the Nevada properties, even the restaurant chain my dad left me. It's all yours now. My hands trembled. No, I whispered. No, this is too much. It's exactly enough, he said. You built all of it with me. You held me up when I nearly lost everything. I'm not giving you a gift. I'm giving you your credit. Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet, because I had one more thing to do. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. Not because I wanted reconciliation. I just needed closure. The door opened before I knocked. My father stood there, tie half loosened. The look on his face told me he'd seen the video. It had gone viral overnight. Look, he said, without warmth. Last night, that was out of line. You think? He didn't like my tone. He never did. I raised you better than that. I crossed my arms. No, you didn't. You raised Brianna to believe she was royalty and raised me to believe I was disposable. He flinched, and for once, I didn't back down. I came here to tell you something. I'm done. I'm done pretending that this family's approval means something. I'm done asking to be treated like I matter. He opened his mouth, but I kept going. And one more thing, you can tell Greg and Brianna, the money stops now. The anonymous investor who paid their credit card debts? That was me. The one who saved your retirement plan? That was me. Not Ethan. Not anyone else. Me. He was speechless. It felt powerful. I turned and walked away. As I stepped off the porch, I heard the door slam shut behind me. But for the first time in years, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like freedom. Back at home, Ethan was on the phone. When he hung up, he looked at me with a fire in his eyes. They're scrambling. Who? Greg. Turns out the bank is pulling his lake house. He missed 3 payments. The only reason they hadn't foreclosed yet was because you kept bailing him out. I blinked. And now they want to meet. To talk. To apologize. I exhaled slowly. Let them wait. And just like that, the tables turned. They used to see me as the girl who served drinks. Now, they would watch me take the whole table. And flip it. 2 days later, a delivery van pulled into our driveway. Ethan glanced through the window. Are you expecting something? No, I said. Are you? The doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found 3 dozen white roses stacked in elegant boxes, each tied with gold ribbon. A small envelope sat on top. I opened it carefully. I didn't know. Please forgive me. We need to talk. Brianna. I stared at the signature for a moment, then crumpled the card and dropped it in the trash. Ethan raised an eyebrow. That's new. She thinks flowers erase years of snide remarks and public humiliation. She's panicking. She should be. Later that night, I got a call from Rachel, my only cousin who'd ever shown me any decency. "I know you don't owe anyone anything," she said softly, "but things are getting messy." Messy how? Brianna's spiraling. Greg's freaking out. They're blaming you for their financial collapse. I let out a low laugh. So, I'm the villain now? You always were, to them, until they needed saving. I paused. They used to say, I was lucky Ethan chose me. Rachel hesitated. They said worse than that. I already knew. They said I married up. That I was just a pretty face from a broken home. That I'd eventually embarrass the family with my roots. They never said it to my face, but whispers carry. They said you were a charity case, Rachel admitted. That you'd crawl back to waitressing one day. I closed my eyes. Thank you for telling me, I said. But I don't need an apology. I need peace. And they can't be part of it. Understood. I hung up. But the next day, the storm truly arrived. Ethan was out meeting a client when the knock came. I opened the door, and there they were, Brianna, Greg, and their lawyer. Brianna's face was painted with carefully rehearsed concern. Greg's was raw, with frustration. Please, Brianna started. Can we talk inside? No, I said. Say what you came to say. Greg cleared his throat. You funded our accounts. That means you were involved financially. I tilted my head. And now you're pulling out and we're stuck. You knew our situation. You can't just disappear like that. I smiled coldly. Watch me. Their lawyer interjected. With respect, we believe there were implied commitments. There were no contracts, I snapped. You want to take this to court? Be my guest. I have receipts, bank records, and public sympathy. I'm the girl you laughed at while I carried trays. You'll lose before the trial date's even set. Brianna's voice cracked. We're family.
No.
You're family. I was never really in it. I was a placeholder. A target.
And now?
I'm the consequence. Her face fell. But I stepped back and shut the door. No slamming. Just quiet. Final closure. Inside, I collapsed onto the couch. Ethan returned 20 minutes later, took one look at me and asked, They came? I nodded. Did you let them talk? They tried.
He took my hand.
You were always stronger than all of them combined. And yet, that night, the weight of years of being small for their comfort finally hit me. I cried. Real, shaking sobs in the dark. Not because I missed them, but because I finally stopped trying to be accepted by people who would only ever see me as useful if I stayed beneath them. The next morning, I woke up clearer than I had in years. I called a real estate agent and listed the lake house I'd kept in my name, the one Greg believed was his. By noon, I'd also canceled the trust Brianna never knew I managed. By evening, their cards declined. By nightfall, my silence was no longer a shield. It was a weapon, and I was done using it to protect them. The fallout came faster than I expected. Greg's job gone. Word had spread about financial mismanagement and family drama, thanks to his poorly timed rants on LinkedIn and Twitter. Brianna's social media? Wiped clean. She'd always lived online, but now every photo, every hashtag, every sponsored post vanished like smoke. But I didn't expect what showed up next. A letter. Handwritten. From my mother. I didn't recognize the handwriting at first. I hadn't seen it in years. Not since the last birthday card she signed with nothing but a Mom. I opened it slowly. I won't pretend we were kind. I won't pretend we understood you. But what happened the other night made me realize something I never said out loud. I was jealous. Jealous that you built yourself without needing any of us. I hope you find peace, even if it's without us. There was no apology. Not really. But it didn't hurt like I thought it would. Because I had already let them go. The real surprise came later that evening. I was sorting through old boxes in the attic, ones I had barely opened after we moved in, when I found a dusty black binder with Ethan's handwriting on it. It was labeled, "For her in case." I opened it slowly. Inside were page after page of records.
Names. Dates.
Transactions. Receipts of payments I never knew he made. Evidence of lies. Dozens of names, including family who had borrowed, taken, and manipulated. There was one page, clipped to the center, with red ink across the top. People who used her kindness. My breath caught. It listed everyone. Brianna.
Greg.
My parents. Even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. There were notes beside each name. Dollar amounts. Dates I'd clearly forgotten. I remembered none of this. Because I'd given without keeping track. Ethan had. He'd kept everything. Quietly. Not out of spite, but out of love. In case I ever needed to remember that none of this was in my head. It was real. And they had drained me dry. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just closed the binder. And I decided something. It was time the world knew who I really was. Not the quiet one. Not the girl in the background. Not the one serving drinks at her own event. The next morning, I scheduled an interview with the very magazine that once denied featuring me because your family's last name holds more weight than yours. This time they called me, and I said yes. The feature went live 2 weeks later. Meet the woman who quietly funded the family that tried to silence her. The cover photo was me, standing in front of the estate, head high, no tray in hand, no fake smile, no borrowed dress. Just me. The story spread like wildfire. It wasn't scandalous. It was powerful and honest. It didn't name names, but anyone who had laughed at me knew who they were. My inbox flooded, not with insults, but with strangers, women mostly, who said things like, I felt this in my bones. They did this to me, too. Thank you for standing tall. It healed something in me I didn't know was bleeding. And then came the backlash. Not against me. Against them. Greg lost his board seat. Brianna's lifestyle blog was pulled from sponsorship deals. Turns out, advertisers didn't want influencers who publicly humiliated their own relatives. Even my mother stopped showing up at social events. Word had spread, and in their circle, silence was worse than gossip.
But I didn't rejoice.
I didn't dance on the ashes, because I didn't burn the bridge.
They did.
I just stopped watering it. Weeks passed, and one afternoon, I walked into the old cafe where I used to waitress. The manager, Carla, gasped when she saw me.
I saw the article, she said.
I showed the whole staff. She paused, eyes watery. You're something else. I smiled. I just want a coffee. On the house. I sat at the same corner table I once cried on after double shifts and whispered dreams. Ethan joined me an hour later, setting his phone down. He looked proud, but not surprised.
They want you on a panel, he said.
Women in finance. 200 keynote seats. They want you. I blinked. Me? He leaned closer. It was always you. I laughed softly. Funny. They used to say I was lucky to have you. He smiled. Now they say I'm lucky to have you. And maybe that was true. But luck had nothing to do with it. I had earned this. Every cent. Every step. Every scar. The next weekend, we hosted an event, this time in our home. No spotlights. No mic. Just a fire pit. Soft music, real friends. Rachel came. So did Carla. And a few women I'd met through the article. We laughed.
Ate.
Sat barefoot on the lawn. No one handed me a tray. No one mocked my worth. No one questioned why I was there. And as the fire crackled and the night wrapped around us, I looked at Ethan and said quietly, I finally understand. Understand what? He asked. That I never wanted a seat at their table.